There, I'm recording here. So we will talk about this question, your test today a little bit, spend a few minutes on it, and then we will talk about 1.2 today and a little bit of 1.3, maybe half of 1.3. So what we're going to talk about here is a test. So your test key is already posted in D2L. So as you guys see that, I'm going to share my screen here. So this is D2L. So where do I put your key test is under materials and then under content. And what you have in this case is you have a midterm, and then this is the key to it. This is the midterm task one that you took on Tuesday. So this is a key. So click on the key and I will talk about question number 8. So this is how we do. So question 8 is mostly what you do here is you are doing distributing. So you need to distribute the 8 and the -6 over to the parentheses, you distribute it. And then after that, you combine like terms and then put it in a standard form. Question 8 is not foiling. So do not foil this, is because this is just adding and this is just mostly adding and subtracting here. So once you distribute your 8 to 4x squared, you get 32x squared, -24x, and then -8. And then distribute this, you get -24x cubed minus 48x plus 12. And then after that, you combine like term. So this -24x cubed is the leading, is the highest power, followed by the 32x squared. The -24x and the -48x is the like terms. You can combine it to become -72x. And then -8 plus 12 is a +4. So this is your answer in this case. Students make mistake here is one, they FOIL this out, which is no, you don't FOIL it out. Two, they factor the 4 out here or factor something out. No, you do not need to factor anything out. And 3, they forget to write this in a standard form. That means they put the x cubed at the end there or somewhere else. So make sure that you write this in the standard form. So this is what I really need you. And the reason why that you do not need to factor for this question 8 is because this question 8 and 9 doesn't ask to factor. They just ask you to either add, subtract, or multiply, and then write this in a single form. Okay, so do not, some students make mistake on question 8 because of that. What is the difference between how we add and how do we subtract, and what do we do with foiling? This is what usually you're looking for here. So if you have 2x plus 5, and then you have a minus or a plus sign in the middle, and then you get 3x minus 2, let's say, this you do not FOIL. This you just add or subtract. This is addition or subtraction. So make sure you guys know this very well. But if you do not have an addition or subtraction sign in the middle, you just have parentheses like this, then yes, this is where you FOIL. This is where you FOIL out. So make sure you guys know the difference between how, when do we add or subtract, you have an addition, subtraction sign in the middle. And if you don't have addition, subtraction, you FOIL out, okay? So this is what we do here in this question number 8. So I think you guys familiar with my grading style right now. So when you look at my grading, this is same thing happens in your tests and your finals. For your tests, usually for your grading style, my grading style is I will put a checkpoint. So checkpoint means that it's correct. And when you see me putting X on it, a cross on it, means it's wrong. And then I start taking points out. And then in the corner of your test, you see some numbers like a -1 or -0.5 or a 0 or whatever. That is the total negative points on that page. And then what I do is I add all these negative points out. And this test is over 52. So what do I do is I just subtract it from 52. And that's how I grade the test. So if I make any mistake I know sometimes I make mistake. So if I make any mistake, please let me know because I do have your test saved in my computer here. So if I make any mistake, just send me email to me and telling me that is some mistake here. And also your grade is already posted in D2L. So I really want you guys to go to D2L and check your grade. If I make an error entering your grade, something wrong, your point is wrong or your grade is wrong, so please email me also, because you know I'm a human, I make mistake. So make sure that you guys tell me what's going on, and so I can correct it. Anyone have any questions for me before we start with 1.2 today, and then a little bit of 1.3? Anyone? Okay, if you do, just either stay back or ask me after class. So what we do here is we're going to talk about 1.2. This is solving linear equations in one variable. So in chapter P that you guys did in my test, mostly they all are expression. What is expression is, expression means you don't have an equal sign. It's just like what we just did on this here. This is what we call as expression. There's no equal sign, but once you have an equal to a number like this, then this is no longer an expression. This is an equation, and this is where you will have to solve it. Okay. So what we do here is, someone sent something. Question number 19. Saidu, what question 19 you talking about here? I do not know. Is that 1.1, 1.2, 1.3? Can you be more specific? What?
1.1, please.
1.1. Okay. Let me go through a little bit of this, and I will go look at question 19. 1.1.
Okay.
So what is so equation is where you have a two algebraic expression, and then you have an equal sign right, you know, in the middle there. And usually when you have an equation, we always solve the equations. That means you find what is the x value in this case, and that is what we call as a solution. Equations can be very tricky. Usually when you solve an equation, you get an answer like x equals to 5 or x equals to 8, like this example here. When you solve 3x plus 1 equals to 6, you know how to solve. I know you guys know how to solve this equation. You get an answer. Usually you get a number, like in this case 5/3. This kind of equations is called conditional equation, where when you solve it, you get an answer. Okay, but sometimes when you solve an equation like this, x plus 2 equals to x plus 2, and when you solve it, you find out that the left and the right are exactly the same. Okay, so you find out when you solve it, you get 2 equals to 2 in this case, which is true. Or sometimes you find out that this is identical, the same expression. What I mean by the same expression means they are the same, like x plus 2 and x plus 2 on both sides. This is what we call as identity. So make sure you guys know that yes, when you solve, it's not always you get an answer like 5/3 or x equals to 2. Sometimes when you solve this, you figure out that the left and the right hand side is exactly the same, or in other words, your x is being canceled out. You get a true equation. This is what we call as identity. And what is identity means? Identity means that your answer is all real numbers. Okay, that means that last time when you look, when you do your equation, you get 5/3. You plug 5/3 into your x, and you solve this. You get not solve. You evaluate this. You get 6. This is usually what you guys do, right? You check your answer. But any other numbers besides 5/3 will not work for this case. But for what we call as identity, any number you plug in here will work. If you plug 1 in here, you will get 3 and 3. If you plug 4 in here, you get 6 and 6. So no matter what number you plug in here, a negative, a fraction, a decimals, you will still get the same thing. That is what we call as identity equation. Okay. And sometimes when you try to solve something, your x is canceled out and you left with a 2 and -2. This is what we call as a contradiction, where you will get what we call as a false equation here. So this is a contradiction. That's what we're talking about. Is so the contradiction and identity only happens if your variable x or y or whatever is being cancelled out. So what do I mean by your variable x is being canceled out? If you look at this example, your x here is canceled out. There's no more x to solve. Same thing with here, the x is canceled out. No more x to solve. And then you just got numbers at the end. And what you do with these numbers is to check, are they having the same, true, or are they false? This one is false because 2 is not equal to -2. If it's false, we call it contradiction. If it's true, we call it identity. Otherwise, if you can able to solve this, this is called the conditional equations. So when you look at your homework, the first few questions on your homework is asking about that. Like this, they will ask you, is this identity a conditional equations or contradictions? So how do we do kind of this question is you try to solve it, okay? You try to solve it. So what we do here is we try to solve this number 6 here. So we got, what happens with this 8 is I distribute the 8 in there. So I get 8x minus 8 equals to 9x plus 1. Okay, and then you try to solve this. If you're able to, in this case, I can tell that how we solve this is we subtract 8x on both sides. So you notice that your only terms that is canceled out here is x terms. Your 9x doesn't cancel here. So this is what we call as a conditional equation. Okay, the reason why is because you can solve for x here. So x in this case is a number. Okay, because we can able to solve for x. So this is how we figure out this is a conditional equation. For number 7, you also solve it. So what we do is we distribute the 5 inside. So you will get 5x plus 15. And then minus 14. And then this is equals to 5x plus 1. So in order for us to solve this, we have to combine the like terms here because these two terms are like. So you will get 5x plus 1. And you also get 5x plus 1. So you notice that when you do this, your left and your right is exactly the same. So we call this as an identity. Okay. And the last one is for number 8. You just solve again. So 8x plus 8, because I distribute the 8 to the 1, so I get 8, is equals to 8x minus 1 on the right side. And then what you do here is you subtract 8x on this case. So this will cancel, both x's cancel. And what you get here is 8 on one side and -1 is on the other side. So this gives you what we call as false. False means it's a contradiction. And as I mentioned early on to you guys, when you have identity, no matter what x number you put in is always true. When you have a contradiction, it means that no matter what x numbers you put in, you have no solution. That means that it won't work. Okay. So to make a conclusion in this case is if you got an identity, your answer in this case is all real numbers. And then if you have a contradiction, your answer in this case will be no solution. Okay, so this is what we, and if you have a conditional equations, then x equals to 5/3 will be your solution. But this is, the solution is all real numbers. Now, before I continue with question 19, Saidu, when you have all real numbers in math class, we will use this symbol, a capital R with another line. This means it's all real numbers. So if you guys are lazy in the test to write all real numbers all the time, you can use this capital R. For interval notation is -infinity to infinity. So this is what we call as all real numbers in interval notation. So I don't care which way you want to give it to me in my test, the capital R or the word all real, or the phrase all real numbers or negative to positive infinity. No matter what you do, I still gonna accept your answer. I think for your online homework, I think they want you to write all real numbers or something like that. I'll show you some examples here. Okay. So, so this is the base, this is the, what we call as the equations here. And I believe you guys know how to solve equations. So I will skip that part and I will talk on question 19 here. And then we talk more about how do we solve equations with fractions and decimals, okay? All right, 19. So this 19 is asking us that write the standard form equation circle given us that this is the diameter of the endpoint. So what is meaning on question number 19 in this case is they will give you 2 points. This is a circle and they give you the diameter. The diameter means something like this. And then you got this point at one side and 1 point on the other side. So in order for us to find the equation of a circle, in this case, you have to find the center. So the center is right in the middle of your diameter here. So this center is actually the same thing as your midpoint. So what you do is, I think you guys did my test. You guys know how to find midpoint here, right? So you take your x values, add it up and divide it by 2. So 11 plus 7 divided by 2. So 11 plus 7 is 18. 18 divided by 2 will give us 9. This is your h. And then you do the same thing for the y value. You take -3 plus 13, and then you divide by 2. So this will give me 10 divided by 2, which is 5. This is your k. So this is how you figure out your center. And then don't forget, we also need to know radius. Radius is actually from the center to one of the point is your radius. So you have to find the distance. So in order for you to find the radius in this case is the distance between the center, which is this, over by any point the 2 points that you pick. So I'm going to pick 7, 13, or you can use 11, -3. So I'm going to pick the center is 9, 5. And I will use another point, 7, 13. So this is a distance formula that you guys learned on P6. So you subtract your x, so 9 minus 7, which is 2. Don't forget to square it. And then you have to subtract your y. 5 minus 13. 5 minus 13 is -8. And you have to square it. So this will give me 4 plus 64, which is 68, square root of 68. Leave it as this. You do not need to simplify because your test, you do have to simplify, but leave it as square root of 68. So now you can write this in the standard form. The standard form is asking for x minus h squared plus y minus k squared is equals to r squared. So what do we do in this case is we know our h is 9 and our k is 5. So we just put in this is 9 and this is 5. And then because this used to be r squared, but your r is square root of 68. So what happens when you square this, then you also have to square this. So the square and square root will cancel. So what you get here is just 68. So this equation will be this. And leave it as this form. You do not need to FOIL or distribute anything. This is what they want you to do. All right, so this is how we do question number 19 in your homework 1.1. Okay, next 1.2. So we'll begin to solve equations. So some of these equations are very easy to solve, but make sure that if you have an answer like this answer is, let's say is -13, then you put -13. If your answer does not exist, means what's mean by your answer does not exist means you get contradiction. Okay, so if you get a contradiction way, then you put D and E. So for example, if I want you to solve this equation on number 8, your answer will be D and E. And if your answer is all real solutions, then you type capital reals. Don't forget these are capital letters. So if you don't use capital letters, they mark you wrong. For example, will be this question 7. If I want you to solve for this, we know it's identity because your left and right is the same, then I will say reals. I will use the word reals in this case as your to type in here. Okay, so the rest is pretty much easy. I bet you guys know how to solve this equation. The one that I want to show it to you is the one that has fractions on it. Okay, that's the one I want to I will concentrate more on solving because I think you guys are able to solve the basic normal equation. So now we're going to talk about 14. How do we deal with decimals? Okay, so there are two ways for us to play with decimals. One way is to use a calculator, just use the whole calculator, get rid of it. Another, which I think you guys know how to use your calculator. For example, is like the last question, not last, where is the question I saw it? Like question 24. So when you guys do question 24 on this 1.2 homework, please use calculator, okay? Take out your calculator and then distribute 7.5 times 2.3x. And then what you do is you just type in your calculator and then so use calculator on question 24 because this is a very horrible answers. And the answer is full with decimals and the question says you have to round to 3 decimal place. But for question like number 14, you can actually skip. You can also use calculator or you can use this method. I'm going to show it to you, okay? So what do I do here in question number 14? If you do not want to use a calculator, you can still use a calculator. It's not wrong. Okay. What you do here is you begin to do getting rid of decimals. Okay. Getting rid of decimals. So what do I mean by getting rid of decimal? Is this is a decimals, and this is a decimal. So these are the two that have decimals. The rest have no decimals. So what do I do here is I look at the decimals and figure out how many decimal places do we have here. If you have 1 decimal places, we will multiply this by 10. If you have 2 decimal places, we will multiply this by 100. If you have 3, then we multiply this by 1,000. So it depends on how many decimals. So this has 2, so I will multiply this by 100. And the reason why we multiply it by 100 so that you won't get any decimals, okay? And this is something I want to point out to you here is inside this parenthesis, do not multiply anything. You only distribute later on. Do not multiply, okay? Just leave it as 100 minus x. And another thing that a lot of students make mistake here is this one. You also need to multiply this by 100. So what I want to tell you here is everything that is not inside the parentheses, the 0.6, 0.4, and 50 can be multiplied by whatever you multiply with. The one inside the parentheses, you do not need to multiply it. So there are 2 common mistakes students do here if you don't use a calculator. One is this one, they multiply this by 100, and then they forget to multiply that by 100. That's the 2 mistakes. And then what you get when you multiply by 100 here is you will get 60x because the decimals were gone. This will become 40. And then you multiply this by 100 minus x, no change on this one. And then this one, you just count how many zeros you get when you multiply. So you got 1, 2, 3, you got 3 zeros. So this is 5,000. So this equation actually no longer has decimals. So now we can distribute this like a normal thing. So 60x plus 4, and then count the zeros. 1, 2, 3, so it's 4,000. Minus 40x. And then this is equal to 5,000. So you can solve, this is easy to solve. So these are like terms, so I can combine the 60x and the negative 40x. So that will give me 20x. And then this 4,000, I subtract it to this side because I need to get all the numbers on one side. So this 4,000 is a positive. So when you move it to the other side, it becomes minus. So 5,000 minus 4,000 is 1,000. And then you divide everything by 20. So this is how we solve for x here. One of these 0 will cancel out because they are division. So now it's 100 divided by 2. So your answer in this case is 50. So this is how we do question number 14 without using a calculator. Okay. If you want, you can use your calculator, just distribute this 0.4x and then use your calculator and then combine like terms. You can do that too. So either way, if you do either the calculator way or no calculator way like this way, if you get same answer as 50, I will still give you the correct answer. But as I told you before, those students who got my test back that I did say you didn't show me enough work, make sure you show me a lot of work here, okay? All right, so this is how we do decimals. Does anyone have any questions with this decimals? Then we do fractions. Anyone? Anyone have any questions? Nope. Nope. All right, so we'll talk about fractions now. So for fractions, like question, the rest of them is all fractions, you can tell. So mostly I will concentrate more on fractions here. For fractions in this case, you will find the LCD. Usually when you do fractions here, you have to find LCD. If you have a nice number like this, then LCD is easy. So for like question number 15, the LCD in this case will be 4. Okay, because 4, 2, and 2, 4 goes into all of those. Okay, so if it's a number, it's a bit easy to find LCD. Then what you do here is like what we did last time is you want to make everything over 4. Remember in your test, if you add or subtract rational expression, you try to make them all the same as LCD. The good news is the top one is the same, 5x. The reason why is because it's already over 4, so we do not need to multiply anything to it. The second one plus the 2 here, as remember last time when you do this is 2, you want to make it 4, and this is 1 upstairs. You multiply this by 2 to make it 4, right? So what you have in this case is this is 4 in this 2 in this case, not 4. This is 2 in this case because so what I'm trying to do here is I try to make all your denominator looks like become the LCD 4. So in this case that this 5x is 4. So this 1/2 I multiply by 2, so I get 2 over 4. Let's do it this way. Now the tricky part is this x. This x is actually over 1. So this middle x is over 1. So you need to multiply this by 4. Don't forget, you want to make him at 4. So this is actually 4x over 4. And then the 1/2, also the same thing, become 2 over 4. So this is, now you find out that all your denominator here is the same as your LCD, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4. So what do I do is I multiply both sides by your LCD 4. And if you do that, if you multiply both sides by the LCD 4, you find out that all your denominator will cancel. And please do not distribute the 4 inside. Do not distribute. Okay? Do not distribute the 4 because it's been canceled with your denominator. So what you have in this case is 5x plus 2 equals to 4x minus 2. So this is very easy for us to solve now. So again, usually how we solve is we want to get the x terms on one side. So I always pick the smallest x. In this case, 4x is the smallest one. And this is a plus, so you do the opposite, minus 4x. So this 4x will become 0. And then what you do next is this plus 2 here, we want to get rid of it. And how do we get rid of it is we minus 2 on this. So we just move the 2 over there, become negative 2. So x in this case is negative 4. So this is how we do if you have a fraction and it is a number. Okay. How about 16 when you get a fraction, but it is what we call as proportion. So this is what we call as proportion. What is proportion? Proportion is actually written down as A over B equals to C over D. This is a proportion. For question 16 is a proportion. Question 15 is not a proportion. Why question 15 is not a proportion? Is because this 2 does not written down as fraction equals to fraction. This one is fraction plus fraction equals to something plus or minus a fraction. So this is not proportion. This is a proportion because it's a fraction equals to a fraction. So this is a proportion. And how do we do if they are proportion is you cross multiply. You take A times D is equals to B times C. So for this question 16, you can do cross multiply, okay? So what you do when you cross multiply in this case is you take the 2 times 16x plus 3 equals 2, and then you take 1 times 7x plus 6. So this is how we do if they are proportion. Only proportion can do this. The rest of this you cannot do, like, oh, let's do that. No, you cannot do it. Okay, and then the rest you guys can do it. You just distribute your 2 and then distribute your 1 and then solve for x. I think you guys know how to solve here. So I want you guys, this is your work. Solve question 16 for me. I want everyone here to solve question 16 for me, and then private message me what is your answer for x in this case. Okay, private message me what is your x in this case. I want everyone to do it. This is your attendance. Let me repeat. Question 16. I already did half. I just start not half. We start your work already. I want you guys to go ahead and do question 16 on your own. You can use your calculator if you have one, or a cell phone if you don't have a calculator with you. I want you guys to go ahead and do this. And private message me your answer. If it's all real numbers, identity, you just type real. If it's no solution, you type DNE. If there is an answer, like in this case, for example, it's 3, you just type 3. Okay, so go ahead and do question 16 now, everyone. Solve this equation. Very good, Devin, that is correct. Sanford, that is wrong. Try again. In order for you to have DNE, your x has to be all canceled out. I don't think so. Your x is canceled out in this case. Your x. So Sanford, that is wrong. Yes, Natalie, that is correct. Magida is correct. So I want you guys to know the difference between a DNE and this answer. Yep, Mario is correct. Adam L is correct. Yep, Mariso is correct. Adam L is correct. Aflam Jalit is correct. Good, except for Sanford, you might need to redo your work. I still count you present in the class, but Marisa is correct. Don't forget, this is attendance here. Saidu is correct. Sally is correct. Tamidu, you have to solve it. That is wrong, Tamidu. Can you solve this? That is wrong. Hablin is an equation. So it's equals, where's the equal sign? It should be equal to something. It's an equation here. It's not an expression. So it has to be equal. Tamidu, the same thing. It's an equation. You have to be equal to something else. Okay, you have to solve for x. Patterson, correct. Adam K is correct. Good. Couple 3 people didn't get it, but the rest of you get it. Very good. Page is wrong. It's not contradiction or DNE. In your page, in your your online homework, you have to type DNE for that case. Otherwise, they might be wrong. But in the test, you put no solution. But either way, it's wrong. Page, it's not contradiction. Okay, good. Some of you, does everyone participate? Yeah, Alam, you got it right. Alam, you're correct. That is correct. Then I will tell you what's happening. 16 is the one I need to talk about. Yep. Tamidu, that is wrong. Check your sign, Tamidu. Check your sign when you add the like terms here. Check your sign. All right, so I'm going to go through this. So a lot of students get confused here. Some of you say it's contradiction. Some of you say it's 0, but some majority of you say it's 0. Your answer is x equals to 0. So this is, I'm going to tell you right now, x equals to 0 and contradiction or DNE are 2 different things. X equals to 0 means that only 0 works in this case. That means when you plug x to become 0, it will work. When you say contradiction, contradiction means no matter what x numbers you plug in, that's not working. So so there are two different types of totally different types of things. You know, one is apple, one is orange. You cannot compare those two. So this is let's distribute the 2. So you will get 32x here, and then you distribute the 2 to the 3, you get a positive 6. And then the 1 you distribute becomes 7x plus 6, because 1 times 7x plus 6 is the same thing. Now, usually I want to combine like terms. I will make all the x. I pick the smaller x, so 7x here. So I will subtract 7x in this case. And you notice that when you subtract 7x, only this cancel out. This still give you 25x. Okay, and don't forget when I tell you about contradiction, your contradiction or your identity, both your variable x is being canceled out. If you look at this, your x is canceled out here and your x is canceled out. Same thing with this. So if your x is canceled out on both sides, you will get contradiction or identity. But for this question that we talk about here, you find out that only the 7x is canceled out, but this is not canceled out. So it's not contradiction in this case, okay? And we have a plus 6 equals to 6. So how do we solve for x in this case is you can solve because your x is still alive. The one with cancel both x, your x is dead. So that's why you get contradiction. So I was minus 6 on both sides. So to get rid of this positive 6, so I get 0. 6 minus 6 is 0. And then I divide both sides by 25. And 0 divided by 25 is still 0. So that's why your answer in this case is 0. Okay. So make sure you guys know the difference between a contradiction and 0 in this case. Okay. For Tammy-Do, your mistake in this case is your 6. You do have a 6 at the back there. So some of you forget to distribute the 2 to that. So make sure you guys understand the difference between a contradiction and 0 as your answer. Okay. So that's why I do this. I want you guys to try question 16 because these kind of questions you get in your test, and a lot of students will give me contradiction as your answer, which is wrong in this case. Okay. Next, we'll talk about is your more difficult type equations. So this is what we call as rational equations. Okay, a rational equations where you have equations that has x on the bottom. Okay, usually when you have a number like last time we do over 4 or over 2, that's easy. But once you have equations that involve with x's or 2 or 3 terms in the denominator, you have to be careful with this. Is because of one thing. It's what we call as extraneous solution. Okay, so this is the one that you need to watch out here when you have a rational equation. Is you begin to solve your answer, and once you finish solving your answer, or x equals to 5, you just move on, right? You don't check it. But this you have to check, and you are checking for extraneous solution. The reason why you have to check for this is because remember that when you have a fraction, your denominator cannot be 0. So that's the reason why that when you guys do all the question that have x in the denominator, you have to check it. And how do we check it? Is plug the number into your denominator and figure out, does that make it 0 or not? If it's not making 0, good. That means this is not an extraneous solution. If it is make it 0, then it's an extraneous solution. You have to reject that answer. What do I mean here is this is what I mean on this question. So we solve this question 16, which we get x equals to 0. But this has, see this equation has, this one we do not need to check 15 because there's no x in the denominator last time. This one has an x in the denominator, so you have to check it by plugging 0 inside here. Does that make the denominator 0 when you put 0 in there? 7 times 0 plus 6, what you get? 7 times 0 plus 6, this is actually is 6, right? Not 0. So that means this question, this answer is good. Okay, this answer is good. So that means it's not an extraneous. What happens if this came out to be exactly 0? Then this answer is wrong. Then your answer will be D and E. No, does not exist. Okay, So make sure that you guys understand this, that what is the meaning of I will show you some examples so you guys know what do I talk about here, okay? So we're gonna continue with number 17. Yeah, things gonna get very difficult here. So again, you can find your LCD here. This 4 is over 1 and this 9 is over 1. Can someone tell me what is your LCD for question number 17? If you got this, anyone know what's the LCD here? For question 17. Yep. Your LCD in this case is 1x or just x. 1x is index x. So again, I want to make all this denominator looks like x. So 17 over x. This one is already have x, so you do not need to do anything. Now this 4 is over 1. So I want to make it x, so I have to multiply this by x. So this you will get 4x over x. And then the next one is 5 over x, which is good because it's already over x. We don't do anything on it. And then the next one is 9. So if you put a 9 here, you have to multiply over 1. You have to multiply by x. So it's a plus 9x over x. So what we do here now is you figure out that all your denominator is x. So you will multiply both sides by x here. And you will notice that all this will cancel out. So what you left is the numerator to solve. So we will get 17 minus 4x equals to 5 plus 9x. Now I want you guys to go ahead and do question 17 for me here. I will finish part way there. So go ahead and solve for x for me here. And again, private message me in the chat room. This is easy. I'm testing you guys know how to solve equation. Today's work is a bit, once you get into here, you should be able to solve for x. Okay. Yep, Natalie is correct. Yep, Natalie, you're correct. Davin, you're correct. Sanford is not identical. No, these are not the same. If you look at this, Sanford, these two are completely two different things. Identical means 5 plus 9x, 5 plus 9x. That's identical. Okay. Magida is not 3. Natalie is correct. Davin is correct. Magida is wrong. Sanford is wrong. It's not 1. Mario is correct. No, how do you get 72, Aflam? It's not 72. Saidu is correct. Adam is correct. Sally, recheck your sign. Your sign is wrong. Can you, Sally, can you recheck your sign? Ahlam, I don't know how you get 72 there. Yeah, it's 17, not 77. Yep, can you redo that again, Ahlam? Marissa is correct. Sally is correct now. Thank you to change the sign. Megida is correct. Tamidu is correct. Good. So, in order for you to have identity means that both of these two sides must be exactly the same. They are not the same, so it's not identity. So your answer in this case is 12 over 13. And don't forget to check. Once you get this, a lot of students say, oh, I got my answer. Let's go on to number 18. You have to check. What you're checking here is to plug this into your denominator. So you got 17 over 12 over 13. Does that make your denominator 0? Does that make your denominator 0 when you plug x 12 over 13? No, we don't make it become 0. So that means that this answer is checked, okay, because the denominator is not 0. If your denominator is 0, then it's no good. So your answer for this case is 12 over 13. Okay. Anyone okay here so far? All right, we're gonna move on to question number 19. Does anyone know what is the LCD for question number 19? Anyone know what's the LCD for question number 19? They all, if you can factor, you have to factor it, but unfortunately, none of this can be factored. Not 3x. Yes, Haplin asked a very good question. She asked, in the test, do you want us to check the answer? The answer is, if you got a fraction like this, you have to check it. But if you get something like what we did last time on the basic equation like this, then you do not need to check. It's optional, it's up to you. But if you get a fraction like this kind of questions, 18, 19, then you have to check it. Don't forget, Adam K, look carefully at the sign. Magida is wrong. Adam K is wrong, no. Yes, Sally is correct. Sanford is correct. Aflam is wrong. Adam Lee is, you got to do more than that. Don't forget last time, if you remember in your test, that's my test that you guys did so good. Where is my test? You guys did so good in the test. Now you tell me, is it this one? Let me see. Yep, this is the correct one. Remember this question? How do you guys find LCD here? You factor this, you get x plus 6, x plus 2, x plus 6, x plus 3, and then you tell me the LCD is x plus 6, and then x plus 2, and then x plus 3. This is how you find an LCD, right? If they are the same, you write one time. If they are all the leftover, you put it down there. This question is exactly the same as that one. So you look at all this, and you can tell me the LCD by looking at it. So the LCD in this case, yep, is correct. It's going to be x minus 1 and 3x plus 1, because 3x plus 1 came up twice. You just need to write it down as 1. So this is your LCD in this case. So what did we do last time is like usual, like you do in the test. What you guys do last time, once you know your LCD, you multiply by the missing one, right? This one is missing x plus 3, you multiply to top and bottom. This one is missing x plus 2, you multiply top and bottom. You do the same thing for this question, exactly the same thing. What is missing on the x minus 1 is 3x plus 1. So what you do is you multiply the top one with 3x plus 1. And then your bottom will be LCD, which is x plus 1, x minus 1 and 3x plus 1. And then for the second one, you are missing x plus 1. So you have to multiply this with x minus 1, sorry, x minus 1. This is still LCD. And the last one, don't forget this equal sign, is equation. Also missing x minus 1. So you multiply that with that, and then this is an LCD. And then what you do is you multiply everything here by your LCD, which is x minus 1 and 3x plus 1. And what happens when you multiply everything by LCD is all this is gone. So what you guys left here is this equation. 4, sorry about my 4, 3x plus 1 plus 6 x minus 1 equals to 9 times x minus 1. Last question here, you guys have to help me to solve this. Go ahead and solve this equation for me. This one's a bit more difficult than the other one. So make sure you guys solve this equation and tell me what is your x is. I want you guys to try it because you will get this kind of questions in your tests. That's what I'm going to tell you that. I'm solving here too. So solve for x here. Make sure you distribute them correctly and then combine like terms. Let me see. Your sign is wrong, Sanford. Oh yeah, Sanford, you're correct. Devin, your sign is wrong. Can you check your sign again? Hablin, your sign. The only part I found a lot of students make mistake here is their sign. So make sure you double check with your sign here. Yeah, Marisa is correct. Magida is correct. Sally is correct. Hablin, again, your sign is wrong. Natalie is correct. Sanford is correct. Devin, your sign is wrong. Magida is correct. Marisa is correct. Davini is correct. Natalie, you got it right. I think you typed, yep, Natalie, you got it right. Tammy Do is wrong. Mario is correct. Saidu is correct. Tammy Do, again, watch your sign and watch your numbers here. Patterson H is correct. Yes, Nat Havlin, you got it right now. Adam is wrong. Adam and Tammy Do, you get the wrong answer. Check your numbers. Okay, check your numbers. Make sure you know how to. Page also wrong. Your number is wrong. It's not 4. It's not -4/9. You guys are good. You know, if you get something close to that, it means that you are just a tad bit off. So if you get a -4/9, you probably get a point off in your test. If you forget the negative, like the rest, some of the students like Havlin and the rest, you only get half a point off. So make sure you guys know. So your answer in this case is yep, Adam Lee is correct. So let's distribute this. So we will talk about here. So this will give me 12x plus 4. And then distribute the 6, you will get 6x minus 6. And then distribute the 9, you will get 9x minus 9. And then I combine like terms on this. There's a lot of like terms here. So 12x plus 6x is 18x. And then 4 minus 6 is -2. Don't forget, this is a -2, not a +2. And then this is 9x minus 9. And then I always get rid of the x first. This is always my my rule of thumb, always do. Some students ask me, can I get rid of the number? Yes, you can get rid of the number, but my rule of thumb is to get rid of that variable first. The reason why is because when we learn inequalities on the last 2 chapters, last 2 sections, you will know why I'm doing this. So for the rule of thumb, always get rid of the x first, and you always pick the smallest x. So in this case, 9x. So I will subtract 9x here. And then in this case, I will get rid of the -2, so I will add 2 here. So this will give me 9x here, and that will give me -7. Don't forget, this one is a -7. So your answer in this case, then you divide by 9. So your answer in this case is -7/9. But do not forget, you need to check your answer. So plug -7/9 to your x here. Will you make this becomes 0 when you plug -7/9 in the x minus 1? No, it won't give you 0. It gives you a fraction, which is fine. And then when you plug -7/9 over into your 3x plus 1, does that make him 0? The answer is also no, because it's still a fraction or a number. So in this case, this number is checked. Okay, so this is how we figure out how we do question number 19. How do we check your answer here? You only check if you have fractions in your denominator. And the last thing we'll talk about here is your xy intercept. So in order for you to find the x-intercept, you have to set your y becomes 0 and solve for x. And same thing happens for your y-intercept. You set your x to become 0 and then you solve for y. And don't forget, your answer is always in coordinates. So a lot of people get, for this case, a lot of people say x equals to 5 and they put 5 as your answer. It's wrong, it's 5, 0. Same thing happens to your y-intercept here. So let's talk about like question number 22. So if you want to find the xy intercept for question number 22 is, in order for us to find the x-intercept, you set y becomes 0. So the whole y here will become 0. So what you get is 3x equals to 27. So x in this case will be 9. But this is not your answer because your answer has to be in coordinate form. So it should be 9, 0. So this is your x-intercept in this case. And in order for you to do the y-intercept, you do the opposite. You plug x becomes 0 in here. So when x becomes 0, you have a -5y equals to 27. Don't forget, you have a negative there. And then you divide this by -5. So your y in this case is 27 over -5. So your y-intercept in this case is 0, -27 over 5. This is your y-intercept. You guys okay here so far? You guys doing all right here so far? Okay. It's very straight. This is easy. The xy intercept is very easy. So what you do here on question 25 is you plug in the numbers in. This looks hard, but no, it's not that hard. Is you plug in the number and you try to solve for h in this case. So for question number 25, they tell you that find the height with the surface area is 471. This 471 is your s. So substitute s to become 471. And then 2 times pi. And the question say use 3.14 for pi. So you take 2 times pi. Pi is 3.14 in this case. And then times 25. You need calculator here for sure. Plus 2 times 3.14, which is pi again. And then times 5h. So you are trying to solve for h. So use your calculator and calculate this and calculate that because those are all decimals. Yes, take out your calculator. Here. So 2 times 3.14 times 25, that is 157. So 471 is equals to 157. And then you do the same thing on this one, 2 times 3.14 times 5. Don't forget that 5 is a part of the number. So this is 31.4h. And the rest, you guys know how to solve it, right? Just solve for h in this case. And yes, you need to use your calculator in this case. Okay. Lastly is question number 28. Is telling us that a delivery company, this is not finished yet, you still need to solve for h here, okay? 26 says that you have a company that has a fleet of vans, and the annual cost C per van is C equals to 0.37 M plus 2600, where M in this case is number of miles driven by the van in a year. What number of miles will yield with annual cost of 13,700? So this 13,700 is your cost, which is your C. So what you do is plug this into C and solve for M. So it's 13,700 equals to 0.37 M, and again use your calculator here, plus 2,600. And the rest, you guys know how to do it. Just solve for M. You guys doing all right so far with this? Okay. The last one is 29. So it's pretty this section is pretty much easy here, except for some of the last one. 29. So you have to solve this. This is tough. I didn't say this. 29 is the hardest of all. What you do with question 29 here, and it's not in your test. This is definitely not in your test, because if I come up with this question in your test, you probably will cry. Okay. So what you do with this is you have to do a bit more work here. You have to distribute this. So this is the same thing, a FOIL. You have to FOIL this follow up. So x plus 6 squared is x plus 6 plus x plus 6 times. So you will get x squared plus 12x plus 36. So this is the FOIL for this, plus 28. And then you do the same thing for this. Now you change the 6 to become 8. So x plus 8 times x plus 8, you become x squared plus 8x, which is 16x plus 64, which you guys did it so good in my test. You guys did this before. And then what you do is you combine like terms. So these two terms, you can combine it. So that will give me 64, I believe, right? 36 plus 28 is 64. So I get x squared plus 12x plus 64. And then over here, I also got x squared plus 16x plus 64. So how do we solve this is first the x squared, we will minus both of them. And the good news is if you minus x squared, this will become 0. And next thing is the 64 is also good, because if you minus 64 on both sides, this also become what? 0. Is this contradiction? Anyone know what is this contradiction? My question to you is this contradiction? Well, you got all looking at this x squared is canceled, this 64 is canceled. Is this contradiction? Anyone? See, a lot of people say that. And don't forget, contradiction means no solution, or DNE. Doesn't matter which one you put in down here. Unfortunately, this is not contradiction or no solution. Yes, this is not. Why this is not contradiction or no solution? Again, back to my basic. What did I tell you about contradiction? No solution? Your variable x has been canceled out, right? But if you look at this equation that we have here, look at this. Does our x cancel out here? No, our x does not cancel out. So if your x is not cancel out, means it is not contradiction. So what you have here is 12x equals to 16x. Your x is still there. It's not cancel out yet. And then when you subtract 12x, because I take the smallest one, in this case, you will get 0 equals to 4x. So your answer in this case is 0. The same thing as what you guys did early on, not contradiction. So I just want to point out to you guys that if your x is still alive, I always use the word alive, is not contradiction. Okay. The only time that you get contradiction is when your x is canceled out and your number is still alive, then you get yourself a contradiction. So make sure you guys know the difference between contradictions and no contradictions. Okay. So that's it for today's class. Does anyone have any questions for me? Your homework that is due on this coming Monday will be 1-1 and 1-2. So don't forget, your homework due this coming Monday is 1-1 and 1-2. So make sure you guys do some work for me here. So anyone have any questions for me before we got going here? Anyone have homework questions, test questions? If you have questions, you can stay. Otherwise, you may go. If you don't have questions, I will stop sharing here and stop recording.